Hi, you're listening to the Connect Your Health to Life coaching podcast. I'm your host, Seth Lusk. I am a self-image coach and empowerment coach with a decade-long background in working in the health, fitness, and nutrition industry. If you're anything like I was, or the way that my clients currently are, then you might be struggling with body image issues, self-image issues, or issues with confidence. You might be trying to figure out why you can't take the ideas that you have for living your healthiest and most fulfilling life and turn them into lifelong actions. So join me in this podcast as we dive in deep on topics of mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health. We're going to look from the perspective of an authentic and empowering mindset, and from self-awareness, self-love, and of course, how we can start taking authentic self-action towards living that healthy and fulfilling life that you know you're here to live. I'm going to bust through some of the illusions and myths that we've all been taught to believe along the way and offer you confidence and clarity. I'm so excited to have you on this journey with me. So the only question is, are you ready to find out how you can start living your most authentic and fulfilling life once and for all? Then let's get started, shall we? Hello everyone. So, welcome back to the podcast. Those of you who are listening in for your first time, welcome. This is sort of ironic here, guys. The sound quality of this recording might kind of go in and out, and it might sound a bit funny because, if you've been listening to the podcast for the last few weeks, I told you all they're doing construction on the road in front of our apartment building, and it's going to be going on until the end of the month. And this morning, they decided that they wanted to rip up the bricks that were kind of like the part of road in front of our apartment building. So they're like these parts of the road that are still these very old bricks that look really, really nice. And this morning they decided that the section right in front of our apartment building of these beautiful bricks needed torn up. And so as I sat down to record this podcast, they brought out this this saw that like cut apart the cement between the bricks, and this chisel that and it was just, you guys, it was so loud. I couldn't even hear my own thoughts. Like it was, and I was like, okay, I cannot record the podcast in here. So I came back to our wardrobe room, which is on the opposite end of the apartment and on the opposite side of the apartment building from the construction work. And my friends, I can still hear them back here. So you may even still hear some loud noises. That's how loud they are. But at least can't hear as much of it in this back room. So imagine this. I'm basically sitting here on the floor, laying here with a microphone in front of me on a laundry bin and a cushion, with my laptop and my outline sitting here on the floor. And I'm recording the podcast from my wardrobe room. So if it sounds different, and if you hear the sound quality, like me going kind of in and out, I'm having to keep shifting myself around here to talk to you and look at my outline and record the podcast. So, adventures. Anyways, so today, my friends, we're talking all about self-image. And the title of the podcast is, But What Will I Think of Myself? Last week it was, But What Will They Think of Me? This week it's, But What Will I Think of Myself? And it's all about this concept of self-image. And so self-image is such an important part of how we show up in the world. And I find it interesting that it's also one of the last things that we look at when our life seems out of control or full of pain or empty of love or fulfillment or joy. Why is that? And I mean, I have a few ideas, but I find it fascinating that this is probably the most important place to look, but it's usually the last place we look. That's a trend that I notice in a lot of things, but in self-image as well. So what is your self-image? Our self-image is basically how you look at yourself. You could stand in front of a mirror and think of also like how you see yourself with your eyes. That can also be part of your self-image, because how you're going to interpret that image is according to your thoughts about yourself. But really, when we talk about self-image, what we're talking about is how you look at yourself from an internal perspective and your opinion of yourself. So it's basically your opinion of who and what you are. So why do so many of us struggle with our self-image? Also, another thing that I've noticed is that more and more people that I encounter that are struggling with their self-image, they don't even recognize how much they're struggling with it because they believe that their experience of believing what they believe about themselves is just how it is for everyone and that there's no other option to consider. And they truly think that thinking negatively and judgmentally of themselves constantly is just what they have to do as a human. It's just what everyone does. They really believe this. They think it's just a fact. And I'm here to say, my friends, it's not true. It's not true at all. So you don't have to do that. So our battle with self-image comes from a long, long, long time ago. I believe this comes from the same space that our desire to people please comes from, and our desire to worry about what other people think of us and where that comes from. And it comes from this belief that what other people think and believe about us is what we therefore have to think and believe about ourselves. And that other people make us feel things and that we need to be part of the group, especially of the people that we think are better than us, and we want to be better than because we believe that this is the objective of life, is to be the one who is better than the other people so other people look up to us. And so we struggle with our self-image because we have delegated it to other people. So it's no longer even really a self-image, it's our perceived group image. So again, it's like we're trying to know other people's thoughts about us, but then not just know them about us, that we're then turning around and making them our own thoughts about ourselves. And the whole objective of this is, again, that we want to feel good about ourselves. We want to feel certain things about ourselves. And we go about it in this very misguided way because we believe that other people need to think these things about us first, and that we need to get enough evidence that these people actually think this about us before we believe that we are allowed to believe these things that we want to believe about ourselves. Can I say believe one more time? And because because we seek it from other people, we constantly are comparing ourselves to others. And then we believe that we have to prove to others that we are good enough to get them to believe what we want them to believe about us, which is really what we want to believe about ourselves. Which then creates this illusion that so many people play into today, which is that in order to get this recognition and this feeling for ourselves, and that we want to be, known and seen, we have to prove that we are better than the other people around us that we want to get the approval of. And we have to get them to look up to us and want to be like us, because obviously if other people want to be like us, then finally we're obviously acceptable and worthy. So this is what I see. This is the space that I see a lot of people's self-image coming from. But here's the ironic thing about this. When we go about this way, we end up having to do things on our way to feeling better about ourselves and like we're likable and worthy and acceptable and that people look up to us. So we usually end up doing things that we do not want to do and that do not align with our truth and our authentic values. And these are things that create then judgment of other people, which then becomes judgment of ourselves, or the other way around. We judge ourselves and then it becomes judgment of other people. And this ultimately causes us to act in a way that we then look down on ourselves for. Because a part of us recognizes that we try to create our self-image and self-worth at the expense of other people's self-image and self-worth. And we may not recognize it directly, but subconsciously, I think we all know that very deeply. That when we try and create our self-image from this trying to be better than other people and create this, I need to be looked up to by other people, I need to be superior to other people in order to feel these things about myself, we end up doing things that go against our own true beliefs about life and us as a person and other people. And then we create this judgment for ourselves and others. And we know that. And we know that we're doing it at the expense of others, but we don't know that there's another way. So we end up looking down on ourselves, which is the ironic thing, because what we're wanting to do is to be able to look up to ourselves, but we go about it in a way that causes us to look down on ourselves. And then we feel like we need to try even harder to prove that we are someone to look up to because we're looking down on ourselves. And we do this by proving, again, that we are better than other people. And we do this to make up for how bad it feels to be looking down on ourselves. So we repeat the cycle of dishonest behavior and inauthentic actions, trying to prove that we are better than someone else that we look up to, because we think that that's how we're going to eventually feel good about ourselves. And this cycle is how we end up going about losing our true self-image. And it's actually the path to narcissism, which I'm going to explain later what narcissism actually is and why so many of us actually struggle with our self-image because we're already narcissistic and we're afraid to be narcissistic. So, my friends, we do these actions, we say these words, and we compare, and constantly try to do things that we hope will prove to other people that we are better than at least a lot of other people, and that we're therefore worthy of being looked up to. The crazy part about this is that when we are looked up to and someone tells us that, internally we say things to ourselves like, if only they knew the things that I did when no one was around. If they could hear my thoughts. If they knew how much I lied and lied about myself to get here, then they definitely would not be looking up to me. So in the end, my friends, we end up choosing for ourselves that we are not someone to be looked up to. But then we repeat the cycle of needing to prove that we are someone to be looked up to, and it's just fascinating and so tiring. We do all of this work trying to convince other people what they should think about us. And again, there's that trying to control what people think about us. And again, we never truly know what they're thinking about us anyways. And in the end, we do not decide to look up to ourselves, and therefore we feel worthless and like we need to prove something. Wash, rinse, and repeat. Wash, rinse, and repeat. So no matter how much we try to give that power to other people, ultimately it's ours anyways. And we end up deciding things about ourselves against our own will because we are telling ourselves that we have to decide those things about ourselves because we think it's what other people think about us, and therefore that's the evidence that that's what we have to believe about ourselves. But we are still the ones deciding it in the end, and we keep trying to give that responsibility to other people. So, moving on, I know a lot of people feel like they have a self-image. And in a sense, we do have an image in mind of who we think we are, but it is who or what we think we have to believe about who or what we are. It's not what we actually know or want to believe about who or what we are. And so, my friends, I want to caution you. This is not self-image, but it's what we've all been sort of convinced to believe is our self-image. And I know some people are going to have resistance to this idea of having a strong self-image. They think that this will make them become cocky or arrogant, standoffish, excuse my French, not appropriate for children, but they think that it will make them bitchy or narcissistic. And here comes that thing about narcissism again. Here's what I want to offer about this idea of a strong self-image equaling being arrogant, standoffish, cocky, narcissistic, or bitchy, whatever you want to think it might be that's negative. When a person has a strong self-image that comes from a space of genuine love and abundance, it never shows up like these things. It doesn't. When we say, I don't care what other people think, this can be either coming from love and abundance or fear and scarcity. And this is what makes all of the difference in having a strong and loving self-image. You see, narcissism comes from this space of not enough, and therefore I need to be better than other people to be enough. My enoughness comes from comparing myself to other people. It actually comes from not knowing who I am and constantly looking out there to figure it out. And then beginning this cycle of constantly trying to prove your worth and lovability at other people's expense. So you see, narcissism is self-image at the expense of other people being also allowed to have a loving and powerful self-image. Narcissism isn't loving oneself. It is comparing oneself to other people and believing that to be enough means that you have to judge yourself as better than other people. So with narcissism, self-worth comes from believing that your worth is increased by decreasing other people's worth. This is not loving or empowering self-image. In fact, this comes from fear that the person's worth is diminishable, that it's fragile, it's scarce, and that it is conditional. People who struggle with narcissism do not have an overly inflated self-image. They actually lack one. They don't have a self-image. They need other people to create one for them. A loving and empowering self-image comes from this space of there is enough to go around. Humans are awesome. Because I am a human, I am also awesome. And so is everybody else. A loving and empowered self-image comes from taking the time to know who you are and love that person. And when you overcome all of your primitive brain's fear tactics that will try to convince you that loving yourself is dangerous, it becomes so much easier then to offer love to others. It becomes so much easier to offer compassion and understanding for others. You see, I know for me, when I was able to work through all of the tricks that my primitive brain tried to convince me that I should really not love myself unconditionally, it became so much clearer for me when I worked through that to see when someone else was acting out in pain and fear, the same pain and fear I was acting from. And it became so much clearer for me that judging them was not the appropriate action, because I had no clue the details of what their brain might be trying to convince them of and scaring them too, and making them feel like they have to believe that their worth is conditional and scarce, and that they therefore might think that they have to be better than me to be worth something. I was able to see that. I was so much more able to see others through this lens of compassion and love, because I had learned to overcome my own mind's tricks to convince me to limit my own worth and lovability. So you see, someone who is truly loving and empowering in their self-image, they don't act cocky or arrogant or better than or standoffish, and they're not narcissistic. All of those behaviors are based in scarcity, judgment, and fear, not love and abundance. I know so many people these days struggle with narcissism, and they don't actually recognize that they're struggling with narcissism, because people truly believe that narcissistic means that you think so much of yourself and think so highly of yourself. And they're like, well, I don't think highly of myself, so obviously I can't be narcissistic. And this is so fascinating to me and also so sad, because I see so many people that are struggling with narcissism that aren't able to look at the fact that they're struggling with it, because they believe that they're not good enough to be struggling with narcissism, which is so interesting to me, because someone struggling with narcissism doesn't think they're good enough. That's why they are struggling with it. That's why they go about constantly being so loud and standoffish and bitchy and acting better than and superior to other people, is because they don't feel that way about themselves, and they feel like acting this way and trying to prove it to other people will get them to finally believe for themselves that they are good enough, that they're allowed to love themselves. Their loud actions are actually a cry out for someone to please prove to them that they're lovable and that they are enough. And the sad part about this is that no one can ever do this for them. So they just become louder and more standoffish and more bitchy and more narcissistic and pushing people away from them, which only then provides them with more evidence in the way that they're looking at this that they're not lovable. So they get louder and louder and louder until they are so isolated, so scared, so alone. And they never learn that the one place that they can do this, create this love that they want to feel, is within themselves. So my friends, the world is full of narcissistic people, but they're not narcissistic because they're so full of themselves. They're narcissistic because they're full of everybody else, because they don't know who they are. They don't know how to know who they are and love that person. That's why they're out there being so loud and constantly seeking attention and approval and all eyes on me, please, because I need to feel loved. That's where narcissism comes from. So let's talk about this self-image. How do you know if your self-image is not clear or your own? I have an activity for you to try. I want you to think of something that you want for yourself, that no one else will see or know. Say it could be clothes or your hair or how you decorate your home. Those are just 3 examples I can think of. What are your favorite clothes to wear if no one else would see what you are wearing? Do you know? This life coach that I follow, Brooke Castillo, mentioned this in her podcast way back years ago, where she was talking about the fact that she wanted to buy flowers for her apartment and no one was going to see them but her. And she walked into the store and was like, what flowers do I love? And she realized in horror, she didn't know what flowers she liked. She only knew the flowers that would impress other people, that other people would like to see, that other people would want to smell or look at and be like, oh, those are beautiful flowers. She didn't, in fact, know the flowers that if only she would see them in her apartment, that she would love. So I want you to think about this. Thinking about the clothes that you wear, thinking about how you would decorate your house. What colors would be in your house if no one else would ever come into your house or see what it looks like inside? There would never be any pictures taken. No one would ever come inside of your house and know how it's decorated and what colors are in there. What colors would be in there? Do you know? Now, I want you to think about the clothes that you do wear every day, because you do know people will see your clothes. I want you to think about how different those clothes are from what you would be wearing if no one ever saw them. Same goes with how your house is decorated or how you fix your hair. And this doesn't necessarily mean that, like, okay, so I know a lot of people think, well, if I don't care what I wear because of other people, then I'll just dress like a slob. And this isn't true. Guys, I want you to know something. I'm sitting here right now on the floor in my wardrobe room recording this podcast. No one will see me today. I have no client appointments at this point in time. For the rest of today, I'm recording this podcast and I am dressed up. I'm talking I'm in dress shoes. I have a nice fitted shirt on, nice fitted pants. I fixed my hair. No one will see me. But I'm sitting here looking in the mirror at myself because my wardrobe is in front of me and I'm like, damn, Seth, you look good. You look good. I like that. I like the way you're dressed today. And I love that. I love that I love my clothes, even though no one else will see them. And that's all that matters. And the thing is, if someone else saw what I was wearing, they might think, oh, well, that's not so dressy. Those fitted pants actually look a little bit trashy on you. Maybe you should trade those out for some more conservative looking dress slacks. You know, like people will have opinions about what I wear. What I wear is my very unique style. It's unique, guys. I like to mix colors up that don't necessarily get mixed up regularly. I like to wear, contrasting clothing items with each other, and I love it. So I want you to really think about that. The clothes that you wear every day versus the clothes that you would wear if no one else saw them. If it was just you and just you had to be happy with them. And if you go through this exercise deep enough, thinking about how you decorate your house, the clothes you wear, how you fix your hair, favorite colors, anything, think about that. If you go through this deep enough, we can do the same thing about our behaviors, how we talk, how we show up, and what things we do regularly when we're alone and when we're with other people and we know other people are observing us. So create a list of if no one knew or saw, and then a list of how I actually show up in this because I know people are seeing and have opinions about it. And I want you to look at the difference between these lists. The more differences you can find between those lists, I can guarantee this is equal to how little you have paid attention and intentionally created your own loving and empowering self-image. The more differences you find, probably the more your quote unquote self-image is actually what you think other people think of you. It's not what you want to think of you and what you truly believe about you. The longer the list of differences between these are, the more you are delegating to other people to define your self-image for you. So this is an activity you can try to know. Just how clear are you on your true self-image? And I know some of you might be thinking, why is having a self-image, a loving and empowering self-image, so important? My friends, your self-image is the standard by which you will tell yourself what you are able to do in your life, what you should be doing in your life, what you are worth doing in your life. Any goal you have, your self-image will be what tells you whether or not to even pursue or plan to actualize that dream or goal. Your self-image will determine how you interact with others. It will determine if or how you judge others or yourself at work and in relationships. And here's a fascinating thing about self-image in relationships. When we do not like something about ourselves, we tend to attract people or find people that we think have what it is that we don't see in ourselves that we want to see in ourselves. And then we start to look up to them because we think that they've got the thing that we want to see in ourselves. The truth is we just have to see it in ourselves. But what we end up doing is we try and seek their approval, thinking that if we can get their approval, and what their approval can mean so many different things for so many different people, but we in our own way try and go about creating evidence that we've got their approval, and that when we get their approval, we will finally have that thing that we want to see in ourselves. So we end up creating friendships, relationships with people that we compare ourselves to in a very negative way. And then we build resentment in that relationship when the relationship doesn't make us feel what it is that we were wanting to feel. And then there's all of this emotional manipulation and dishonesty in the relationship, judging the other person, talking about them behind their backs, trying to feel better about yourself because the other person isn't making you feel what you wanted to feel about yourself when you first started the relationship with that person, desperately wanting their approval so you could feel how you wanted to feel. You see, I see so many friendships, dating relationships, and even marriages in this pattern. The relationship started because the people in the relationship wanted the other person to make them believe something about themselves that they wanted to believe for themselves. And they think the way to get that belief about themselves is to constantly seek the approval of the other person as proof for themselves that they are allowed to believe what they want to believe about themselves. The huge problem here is that in this dynamic, you will spend all of your time trying to constantly get more and more approval because you refuse to believe it about yourself. And so the stakes of how much approval you need gets higher and higher and higher. And your constant self-doubt and convincing yourself that you need to seek more and more approval again and again and again builds and builds. And usually this ends up putting so much pressure on one or both people in the relationship that there's too much expectation, too much dependence. And then the relationship collapses in on itself. I have seen it happen over and over again in my past relationships. So many times I was like seeking the approval of another person to the point where I was so resentful of them because they wouldn't just give it to me, not recognizing that I just had to give it to myself. And I was so resentful. And I just became so much needier and more dependent and more demanding of them. And then they felt more and more pressure and inadequacy. And then eventually those relationships collapsed on themselves under the weight of that demand and pressure of the other person needing to make the other person feel something about themselves. And it cannot happen. It cannot happen. The other person can never make the other person feel what they want to feel. So back to the other ways in which self-image is so important in other areas of your life. Your self-image will determine the limits that you place on yourself of what is possible for love, forgiveness, and worth in your life, for yourself and for other people. Your self-image will make the difference in the tiniest and in the biggest actions that you will take throughout your entire life. Because your self-image will tell you before you take a single action at any point in time in your life what you are actually able to do, what you are good enough to do, what you are strong enough to do, what you're brave enough to do, what you're loving, understanding, flexible, and good enough to do. Your self-image defines all of that for you. So the question is, have you given your self-image to other people? Is your self-image so disempowering that you never go after anything in your life because you don't ever think that you're strong enough, worthy enough, lovable enough, brave enough, or good enough to do it? My friends, this is why self-image is so important. It is the most important work to do until you have done it. Because everything else in your life will be based on that self-image. So, how can we know our true self-image and create one for ourselves that is genuine for ourselves? I have another activity for you. All right, this activity has multiple parts, so stick with me. You may need to pause, write this down, go back, that's fine. All right, so step one of this activity. I want you to think about this. This is a way for you to access your true opinion of yourself. If you were in a world all by yourself, not a single other person would ever see you, and you're not sad about this. This isn't like a sad, lonely world. This is just the reality you were born into. You don't even actually recognize that other people existing was ever an option. So you're just able to have fun and live life all by yourself. Imagine that for a second, living in a world like that. And then I want you to ask yourself, what would you be doing in that life? What things would you be creating? What would you want for your body? How would you want your body to look and feel? What would you feed it? What would your body feel like for you to be completely happy with it and in love with it? What would you be doing with your body regularly? Just think about this and write it down. Write it all down. Let your imagination go wild. And it's fascinating, some of the things that you will come up with. Truly fascinating. I realized I would play with Matchbox cars more. I'm 37 years old and I'm like, oh, I would probably play with Matchbox cars. Build like a huge Matchbox car set. Because I love playing with Matchbox cars. I would paint more. I would spend more time just staring at the sky. I would probably build sandcastles. I would, so many different things that I would do that I'm not doing now because I'm afraid of other people's opinion of me. It will blow your mind to do this part of this activity. Then, okay, I want you to take that list and set it aside for now because this is just to access your own opinion. So now that you're in that space of your own opinion, I want you to start another list. I want you to think of all of the people in your life who you want to think highly of you. It could just be the general, when we say, I want other people to like me, who are the other people? Just think of them as like a conglomeration of like an entity, okay? All right. If every one of those people thought exactly what you wanted them to think about you, it could be things like, I'm so thin, or I'm so good, I'm so helpful, I'm good looking, I'm smart, I'm brave, I'm passionate, whatever you want them to think, okay? I want you to write all of these thoughts down. Write them all down, okay? Take your time with that list. Exhaust it. It could be 50, 100, 2,000, I don't care how many items long. Write them all down. Okay? Then once you're done with that, get another piece of paper out. I want you to think of some things, or at least one thing in your life, a dream that you have, a goal that you want to accomplish, that you are thinking right now, if I did that, I would be successful. I would be living a worthy life. I would have arrived at being able to accept and love myself. Think of those things. It could be something like writing a book, getting to a certain weight, making a certain amount of money, having a specific job or degree. Just think about what that thing is that you would want to accomplish, that goal that you would have. Really think about yourself having already accomplished that goal right now. Put yourself in that place. Close your eyes and imagine being there. You've done this thing. You've proven to yourself that you are living a worthy life and you are acceptable and lovable. Okay? I want you to put yourself there, and then I want you to answer these questions. From that space, what are you thinking about yourself, having accomplished those things or this one thing? What are you allowing yourself to believe about yourself in that moment? What are you feeling about yourself? What feelings are you feeling? Write those things down. It could be, I'm feeling like I finally made it. Like people finally love me. like I'm seen, like I'm important. It could be anything like that. Just write an exhaustive list down, okay? Once you're finished with that, you now have we're going to put these lists together. You now have a long list of things that you want others to think about you and a list of things that you want to think about you. So these lists, when you combine them together, they basically create this ideal self-image that you want to believe about yourself. This is what I want to encourage you to recognize. How does it feel to think those things about yourself? Or to believe that others think those things about you? Because this feeling that you're feeling, or those feelings, are what you're actually after in trying to impress the other people with you, quote unquote you. And it is what you are wanting to accomplish. It's why you're wanting to accomplish those things in life, is that you want to feel those things. And you think that by accomplishing those things, that you'll be able to feel these things and believe these things about yourself. So here's the really cool thing about this. Those thoughts, beliefs, and feelings that you're feeling right now because you're allowing yourself to believe those things about you, you can and are able to feel them right now, at any point in time. I promise. I know because you just did it. You just created that feeling by making these lists and really getting into that space and thinking that. Even if it was only for a split second, you allowed yourself to believe that about yourself for 1 second, and then you were able to create those feelings. So, my friends, no one else in this world is keeping you from that. Nothing outside of you is keeping you from believing those things about yourself. It is you and simply you not giving yourself permission to believe these things about yourself. And you may think that choosing to believe these things about yourself without the external proof will make you seem crazy or narcissistic or I don't know what. Most people would believe this, I think, that if I start believing this without having evidence, that obviously other people are going to think that I'm crazy. Or I'm going to think that I'm crazy. But I want you to really question that belief. Because here's the thing about it. Most of your current self-image is not based in true factual evidence either. It's just your opinion of what you think other people's opinion is about you. So you're already doing this anyways. You are already, in fact, acting in this crazy by your own definition. So feel free to continue this trend in a way that actually serves you. I'm giving you permission right now. You can switch it. You can still do the same crazy thing in a way that actually serves you. So how does choosing to believe these things about ourselves that we want to believe, that is loving and empowering, how does it serve us? Okay, what if I told you this? Those things that you thought in the exercise that you just did, that you wanted to accomplish, to feel finally like you're worthy of your own approval, worthy of you to like and love yourself, and finally see your infinite worth. What if I told you that a huge part of what is going to help you create the actions in your life and actualize those things is by starting to think in the way that you believe you have to wait until after you've accomplished the thing to think? Let me say that again. So the dream, the goal that you think that you need to accomplish before you're allowed to believe the things about yourself that you want to believe. What if I told you the things that you want to believe about yourself, that you're waiting to accomplish the thing first to believe about yourself, you have to start thinking those things now to actually take the action steps to create the thing in your life that you're thinking you need to do to create the feeling and the beliefs about yourself. My friends, excuse my French, you're going about it ass backwards. Most of us think that we have to do the thing first before we're allowed to believe these things about ourselves. But it's actually believing already now that you are the amazing and worthy person who does those things that creates the actions that will cause you to do the things. And it is not because you doing them are what makes you worthy. You see, your worth and amazingness are non-negotiable. You're amazing and 1000% worthy by design, not by decision. You are 1000% amazing and worthy by design, not by decision. The truth is that it is because you are amazing and worthy that you recognize your infinite ability to take the actions and create what you truly want in your life. Because what's the worst that can happen? You end up right back here in the space where you love yourself. So why wouldn't you take action towards these goals or dreams? You already know you're amazing and worthy. So if you try something and it doesn't work, it doesn't change that. Because you're worthy by design, not by decision. You can't change it. If you had $5 million in your bank account right now and you looked at that and said, I'm broke, it doesn't make you broke. You still have the $5 million. You're just choosing for some reason to think and live from the space of, I don't have that $5 million, but it's there. My friends, your worthiness is non-negotiable. Now, I know a lot of you are here because you really want to optimize your physical health too. I know a lot of you are like, okay, yeah, but you're also supposed to be a health coach and you're supposed to be helping me live my healthiest life. So why in the world are we talking about self-image? My friends, as a science nerd and someone who loves health and nutrition and exercise as tools to be living my most fulfilling and healthy life, I'm going to connect these dots for you right here. See, your self-image and your health are directly connected in so many ways. The way that you look at yourself and talk to yourself, because of that view that you have of yourself, will directly impact your emotional experience of the world. Someone who thinks very little of themselves, or like they're not capable of doing anything good or great in the world, because of how negatively they talk to themselves, will actually experience more hormone fluctuations, more neurotransmitters that create a feeling of stress, danger, and like something is wrong. And this hormonal response leads to the central nervous system and the immune system being on constant high alert. And being in this state constantly leads to things like chronic inflammation, autoimmune disorders, poor digestion, poor sleep, your skin and hair deteriorating. So many things that happen because of this constant worry and stress about the fact that you're not good enough, all of which directly impacts your health. If you have weight loss goals and you're in this constant state of distress, your body is going to literally fight you tooth and nail about losing weight because it thinks you're in constant danger. And when you're in constant danger, losing weight is one of the most dangerous things to your body. Your body thinks, no, if we lose weight now, we really might die because we got to hold on to all this weight. I mean, obviously, look at how stressed out we are. There's obviously a lot of really bad crap going on out there. Now, what happens if we run out of food? So when it thinks you're in danger, it wants to hold on to stored energy. It wants to conserve energy. It wants to store more energy because your body doesn't know if the environment around you is constant enough or safe enough for it to lose weight. Losing weight is what it does when it's like, okay, everything's good. Yeah, we can use up this energy. We don't need it. I mean, there's plenty of food. We're good enough. Everything's great in life. So yeah, let's use up some of this stored energy. This is just a couple little ways in which your self-image directly impacts your physical health. But here's another way. The way you look at yourself and talk to yourself will directly impact the goals that you will set for your health and your body. Just like it will impact the goals that you set for yourself when it comes to your career and money-making, relationships, education, all of that. It will also determine the limits that you set for yourself in your relationship with your physical body. Meaning this, what you think you are capable of when it comes to taking care of your body that you were given in this life, that will determine how you decide to take care of that body. Let me give you an example. This is like an example that I see with so many of my clients that come to me with like really serious health issues, and even less serious ones, but really serious health issues. And it's from being at a very unhealthy weight, both underweight and overweight. But the one I see the most tends to be overweight these days. So we're going to talk about that. And it's usually because their relationship with food has become so subconscious and unconscious and out of control that they cannot figure out how to stop gaining weight. And this is making their body sicker and sicker and sicker. So you see, right there, the first aspect of their self-image is, I can't figure this out. I'm not smart enough to figure this out. They're literally telling themselves that this is an issue that is not one that can be solved or that they're capable of solving, and this creates inaction, shame, and guilt surrounding their weight gain and the fact that they haven't figured it out yet. So they will choose to avoid to take action in this area because they are constantly telling themselves, there's no point, you're just too lazy, just too stubborn, something is wrong with your body, you've tried it before and you're just not good enough at it, everyone's going to make fun of you, there's no point in trying, etc. So many different things that people might say. When in fact, these are only their opinions that they're holding of themselves. It's their quote unquote self-image of that you are broken, useless, lazy, stubborn, everyone's going to make fun of you, you're a lost cause, not strong enough, stupid. The list can go on and on. I've heard so many different ways in which people, their negative opinion of themselves shows up when it comes to wanting to lose weight, but they haven't yet. And guess how they show up in their life? They show up as that list of things that they are telling themselves that they are. And guess what this produces in their life? More of that same pattern that created their weight gain in the first place. That they are not taking the time to understand and ultimately change. They're creating more and more of the pattern that caused them to gain the weight because of how they are talking to themselves and looking at themselves. And they don't recognize that that's what caused it in the first place because they keep looking out there for the solution. Think about it. So say you are overweight. If you believe that you are not capable of losing weight, are you going to be out there in the world trying to understand your weight gain? Trying not from a space of like, oh my God, it's because you're so stupid, but like really trying to understand how did this actually happen? If I'm not stupid, if I'm not lazy and broken, how did this happen? You won't be out there looking for solutions like that. You'll be out there trying to judge yourself. And this is what created the pattern of the weight gain in the first place. Because you're trying to buffer away that self-image, that discomfort, that hatred of yourself in that self-image. That's painful. And so you're literally trying to get away from the pain of that self-image with eating more of the stuff that caused you to gain the weight in the first place, watching more of the television instead of getting up and moving around and moving your body like you want to, that caused you to gain the weight in the first place. So if you're feeling these things and believing these things about yourself, you're not going to be out there trying to find solutions. No, you're just going to feel more stressed and depressed and anxious. And more than likely, since you have convinced yourself that there's nothing that you're able to do about it, you will look for something to soothe that pain and discomfort. And like I said, 95% of the time, what people with weight gaining issues soothe their pain with is the thing that caused the gaining weight. So you're literally then creating more evidence for yourself that your belief is true, that you cannot do anything about your weight gain. And the cycle repeats. Wash, rinse, repeat. Wash, rinse, repeat. And we stay in that cycle. All because we don't want to look at the self-image. Because we think that that's like the frou-frou work. That's like the unimportant stuff. No, I got to fix all this stuff out here first. So, my friends, the ways in which your self-image directly affects your health don't stop there. I have seen self-image create eating disorders in people that have destroyed their bodies from becoming so nutrient deprived that their bodies start shutting down because they don't feel like they're thin enough yet. I have seen it create so much stress and anxiety in a person that they are literally always getting sick. Always a cold, always a headache, always a muscle ache, always a joint hurting, always something falling apart in their body. I have seen it create infertility in women who are wanting to get pregnant because their body is literally screaming, no, girl, no. You can't get pregnant right now. Do you see how much danger we're in? Do you not feel all of this stress? We cannot support a baby right now. Yeah, your body will do that. I've seen a person's self-image literally create their inability to get pregnant when they want to get pregnant. I have seen it in men cause them to work so hard and so many hours because they think that their worthiness comes from their ability to make a ton of money. And that if they're not making a ton of money, and if they're not successful at their job, that they're worthless and unlovable. And I have seen this lead to them overworking themselves to the point of a heart attack, of a stroke, mental illness, hair loss, weight gain, so many different health issues. So, my friends, the point is this: your self-image is the basis for how you will take every action in your life, including and especially in the area of how you will take care of the body that you were given, that you look at in the mirror every day and have an opinion about. And yes, your body hears that on the deepest level and can do nothing but respond to it. And I love you all. That is why I am telling you this. You have to stop looking out there for the magic bullet solution. And I know so many of you want to just skip over this part because it feels so hard. And the reason it feels so hard is because you've never done it before. It's like trying to ride a bike for the first time. Yes, it feels hard. Trying to walk for the first time. Yes, it feels hard. You've never done it before. And my friends, the reason you haven't done it before is not because you're stupid or broken. It's because nobody has told you, hey, stop looking out there. What caused all of this is inside. And I hear you. You think you don't have the time for all of this woo-woo feel-good work about yourself. And I know society tells you, just keep on working harder, take more caffeine to get more work done, drink more alcohol to relax after the work, eat more food to feel better, take these medications when the food starts to make you sick, take these supplements when your unhealthy eating and drinking patterns and sleeping patterns start hurting your body. And then all of these solutions deal with symptoms. They deal with the symptoms of the disease that started with how you look at yourself and talk to yourself. The caffeine, the alcohol, the supplements, the medications, the food are all just dealing with symptoms of the underlying problem, which is you will not take the time to create a loving self-image. I don't know about you, I was so tired at one point in time in my life of covering up symptoms until the symptoms became so intense that the cover-up that I was using no longer worked, and then I had to find a stronger cover-up, and even stronger, drink more alcohol, take more pills, eat more of this food. I was so sick of this hamster wheel. And then the things that I was doing to cover up the symptoms actually in the long run made the symptoms worse, and so then I'd need stronger and stronger ones. And all of my clients that were coming to me were struggling with this too. That's why I started doing this kind of work when I finally recognized that they kept coming to me for band-aids to cover up their bullet wounds. And once I recognized these are bullet wounds, there's a bullet inside there. I can't just keep covering it up. I can't just keep giving these people band-aids to cover up this hole where there's a bullet deep inside there. I discovered how to find the bullet, remove it, and heal the wound. And so I started taking the time to help my clients see that I know that you want this Band-Aid. And I know that it will give you the immediate relief of you're not seeing blood gushing out of this wound for a little while. But the wound is still there, and the bullet is still inside of it. And until you take the time to get inside there, find the bullet, remove it, and heal that wound, it's just going to keep repeating. You'll just need bigger and bigger Band-Aids. And my friends, what it started with me, the work here started with me taking a long, loving, compassionate, understanding, and empowered look at my self-image. And I did it with the help of coaches, other coaches. I took a strong, loving look at my self-image and my self-talk. I learned to stop judging it and to look at it from a space of understanding and compassion. And it was from that space that I was able to figure out what caused all of this in the first place. Where did the bullet come from? Turns out I had pointed a gun at myself a long time ago and fired away. I had loaded myself up with bullet wound after bullet wound after bullet wound. And this whole time, I was so busy looking out there that I didn't recognize I was pointing the gun at myself and firing away. So I know you want to think that you can skip over this and just go ahead and work on things and then eventually come back to this later. You'll just get ahead in life through your career, through, finally getting to that weight or whatever it is, getting the body that you think is going to finally make you acceptable. I know you think you can get there first and then your self-image will follow, but I'm here to promise you this, it doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. The journey that you need to take to create those goals for yourself and to do it in a way that is sustainable and true for you requires that self-image first. It's what makes the journey towards these goals fulfilling and fun, not the I'm not going to be good enough and have fun until I get there. Having that self-image first is what allows you to take this process and it not be at the expense of your health, emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And instead, you will find solutions to the obstacles on your journey faster, with more creativity, with more love, with more authenticity, because you started with the self-love first. It's what I've been saying all along. You cannot hate yourself to health. And this doesn't just mean the health of your physical body. It means the health of your relationships, the health of your goals, the health of everything in your life. My friends, you can't skip over this. I know you want to think that you can. I know you want to think that you can work from the outside in, but it's not going to work that way, because where your power is inside you. Your power is inside you, and you don't want to look there. You don't want to look there and take your power back. You don't want to remove the bullets and see the amazing way you can show up in your life when you love yourself first. So I want to encourage you. Stop lying to yourself and thinking that you're going to find the solution out there. You're eventually going to find the miracle diet, the miracle exercise routine, the miracle supplement to get you to that weight where you're finally going to love yourself, because I promise here's what's going to happen. Even if you get to that weight, you're going to look in the mirror, you're going to be skinnier and still full of that same hate. I know, because I did it. I know, because I did it. I got myself down to 4.5% body fat, and I looked in the mirror with so much loathing and disgust of my body. And that's when I recognized, Seth, you have a problem. And the problem is that you keep looking out there for something to make you feel better about yourself and your body. And what's going to make you feel better about yourself and your body is to start loving it now and giving it what it needs from that space of love. And that's what I started doing. And now I love my body. I love my body. I have more body fat on it, and I'm okay with it. I love that body fat on my body because it's there. It's there because I eat healthy. It's there because I take care of my body. It's there because my body says, this is the weight that I want to be when Seth is loving me and taking care of me, and this is the weight that I feel best at. And sure, some people will say, yeah, you could stand to have a little bit more muscle here and a little bit less fat there if you want to do a bodybuilding competition. That's great, that's great, that's great. But guess what? I love my body the way it is. I love my body the way it is. That doesn't mean that I can't want to do a bodybuilding competition, but doing that bodybuilding competition is not going to make me love my body more. Me loving my body now will be what will enable me, if I decide I want to do a bodybuilding competition, which I don't, by the way, but if I decided I wanted to, me loving my body now would enable me to go into that process with love and to do it in a way that doesn't harm my body, and to stick with the process in such a loving way and love the journey of it. Enjoy the journey of it. Have fun in the journey of it, because it's not about me trying to prove my worth. It's not about me trying to get the approval from other people to say, am I lovable enough yet? Does my body look good enough that I can say, you've made it, Seth? I'm not looking for that anymore. I gave it to myself. So I also want you to know, just because you do this internal work doesn't mean that you can't create external goals for your body. You know, maybe you still want to do a bodybuilding competition, and you can. I'm not trying to tell you you can't, but when you're doing it from a space of I already love my body, how you show up and do that is completely different. Completely different. And maybe you discover that you don't want to do a bodybuilding competition. You've been telling yourself this whole entire time that you did want to, that was your goal. My friends, the things you will discover about yourself and learn to love about yourself and want for yourself, they will astound you when you clear out all of that crap that's in the way, coming from what you think you have to do with yourself and with your body to get the approval of other people that you think will finally allow you to love yourself. When you get all of that out of the way, my friends, oh my God, I can't even begin to describe to you the unstoppable energy of being able to know what it is that you want and just do it and love the entire journey through. Have fun with the entire journey through. I can think about it with this podcast. I was so afraid of people judging me on this podcast that I never started it, because I was afraid I had to be good enough at making a podcast first before I started it, or people would judge me and then say I'm not good enough at a podcast, and then I'd have to stop making the podcast and then feel judged and be like, see, Seth told you weren't good enough. But the truth was, I just had to sit down one day and say, Seth, you're damn good at making a podcast, now make one. And that's what I decided. And that's what I did. And here I am, 16 episodes later, and loving doing this. And I know that there are people out there that will listen to this podcast and be like, yeah, but you're not good at making a podcast. I hear you. I hear you. It took me a long time to realize I was good at making a podcast too. I don't expect you to see that about me. Maybe you don't want to put in that amount of work. I put in a lot of work to recognize that about myself. And I'm willing to recognize it. I recognize it now. Doesn't matter if anyone else does. So my friends, try the exercises I gave you in this podcast. Go back, listen to the episode again, find them. There were 2 of them. Go through them. See what comes up. It's a great starting point to get clear on your current self-image and where you want your self-image to be. And then, when you're ready to start creating that self-image that you want for yourself, and start showing up in your life with that self-image and seeing how it transforms all areas of your life and health, I'm here to be your guide. I'm here to show you how to become unstoppable with that. That's all I have for you all this week. I love you all. I truly, truly do. And I hope you learn to love yourself the way I love you. So until next week, ciao. Hey, thank you for listening in this week. I hope you enjoyed the content of this episode. If you did, please subscribe or follow this podcast to receive the newest episodes every week as I bring them to you here on the Connect Your Health to Life coaching channel. Ratings, reviews, and comments are always appreciated. These allow me to know more of what my listeners would like in the podcast and allow for more people who may be searching for a podcast just like this one to find the Connect Your Health to Life coaching channel. If you would like more information about me and the work that I do with my clients one-on-one, then please visit my website at www.slch.ch. Again, that is www.slch.ch. You can also find me on social media on Instagram at SethLusk_coaching. Again, that is SethLusk_coaching. And on Facebook in my free Facebook group community called A Healthy Life Connection. We would love to have you in the group, and it's only 3 membership questions that you have to answer to join. And again, it's entirely free. And if you need any further information or just want to say hello, feel free to send me an email directly at slusk.health@slch.ch. Again, that is slusk.health@slch.ch. Thank you again so much for listening, and I look forward to our next time together. Ciao.